Hello, everyone. Today I'd like to deal with the issue of the Electoral College. This is very relevant at the moment because within a month, the Electoral College will effectively decide who the next president is. The Electoral College is not totally based on population. It's more intended to give representation to all the various states, including the very small states. One needs to look back at the actual Constitution and the development of the Constitution in 1887 in order to understand this properly. Basically, the smaller states refused to come into the Union unless they first of all argued for equal representation, that is, that they would have the same level of votes as, say, New York and Virginia. The delegates from Rhode Island and Delaware put that argument strongly for the first couple of months. And eventually the Constitutional Convention came up with a compromise situation, which is called the Great Compromise, whereby they would have two houses of Congress, one, the House of Representatives, which would be based on population, and the other house, the Senate, would have an equality, would create an equality between the states, whereby each state would, regardless of a population size, would have two senators. So a very small state like Wyoming, with 600,000 people, has the same level of senators as a big state like California with 39 million. That in effect means that there's a huge advantage, relatively speaking, in terms of being part of a smaller state in terms of deciding the presidency. A vote is worth far more in, say, Wyoming or Dakotas, North Dakota, South Dakota, because of the small population in comparison to, say, Texas or California or New York. So basically, to look at the overall numbers here, there are 438 representatives, House of Representatives, and there are two senators for each state. That's 100. So the two houses together combine to 538, and therefore the half of that is 269. And therefore, whichever candidate gets to 270 on the night of the election becomes the next president. So I just thought I'd say that some people consider this a very unfair system in that Wyoming, with 600,000 people, has three electoral college votes, and if that was transferred, that level of proportionality was transferred to, say, California with 39 million people. California would have 195 million, 195 million votes, electoral college votes. Instead of that, they have only 55. So this is the electoral college creates a balance between the powerful states and the weaker states, and gives so it's part of the Constitution, and it's part of the way the Union came together. The smaller states wouldn't agree to it otherwise. Rhode Island and Delaware argued strongly for equality, and this was the compromise came up with. So the Electoral College is part of the Constitution. Some people think it's unfair, but it does mean that the president is more broadly representative of the country, in the sense that Donald Trump, although he won a minority of votes, Hillary Clinton beat him by 2.9 million, but he had 30 states and she had only 20. So he was more representative of the country as a whole. So we move on from that to the situation, looking at the situation that's coming up now. Same thing could happen again. So if it does, Donald Trump could win again with a minority of votes. But there's many other factors as well, of course, in this election that also needs to be taken into consideration. The issue of immigration. Joe Biden, as president, a couple of years ago, put Kamala Harris in charge of this issue, and the media branded her the border czar, and Republicans have since taken up that title and sort of ran with it. It's not a popular issue, and there is no solution, and a lot of American citizens find themselves under severe pressure to retain jobs and their wages, and also the competition for houses. So this is an issue that could damage Kamala Harris. It's difficult to move away from it, given that she had responsibility for it for the last 2 or 3 years. Biden possibly put her in that position because he was afraid of a challenge, and it has sort of backfired on the Democrats. So it's a difficult issue for them to deal with at this point. Another issue which may emerge as as an issue in the election is the assassination attempts on Donald Trump, in the sense that, especially the first one, he emerged out of that event as a real hero, punching the air with his fists, and that 2 or 3 minutes after they tried to kill him. And it also is an important state, the most important state of the whole lot, in that it's the battleground state with a swing state that has the highest electoral college vote of 19, which is huge. And in the aftermath of that, the opinion polls didn't really show any bounds for Trump, but one has to suspect that that's because a lot of people are influenced by the mainstream media and are reluctant to express opinions about Donald Trump. But there could well be a hidden vote there, a hidden Trump vote, which could emerge on election day, which could see him very strong in many of those battleground states. There's about 40 states that never really change. They're either blue states or red states. But the 5 key states that you might call are real swing states. They're swing states because basically Trump won them in 2016 and Joe Biden won them in 2020. And they are, just to look at a list here, they are Wisconsin, 10 electoral college votes, Arizona, 11, Georgia, 16, Michigan, the same, 16. And the most important state of the whole lot is actually Pennsylvania, which is 19 electoral college votes. So with the 72 votes there, and whoever wins or does substantially well in those 5 states will virtually certainly be president. So most of the focus will be on those 5 states. There's also 1 or 2 other states like North Carolina that could flip one way or the other, but those 5 states I think are crucial to watch on election night. And there's also the issue of foreign policy, especially American foreign policy is the most important foreign policy in the world, as it helps to keep stability in the world. And Trump basically hammered Harris during the debate in relation to the withdrawal from Afghanistan, where there's 13 people killed. Trump claimed there'd be nobody killed if he was in charge, and also £80 billion worth of military equipment left behind. So it was a pretty big failure, and she didn't seem to have any real answer to that either. And he also went on to claim that the Putin invasion of Ukraine would never have happened if he was in charge, that the incompetence shown in Afghanistan encouraged Putin. And also the situation in Israel attacking in Hamas. That's one of the most tragic situations in the world at the moment. So these are issues that will also be under consideration for people voting on election day. I think there's also something to be considered in relation to the people who are backing Trump on this occasion. Back in 2016, Hillary Clinton was able to call Trump supporters deplorables, but that type of language has far less credibility now, in that Trump has really serious backers, people like Elon Musk, Jordan Peterson, and Robert Kennedy, who represents the Democratic Party in the old days when his brother and father were at the top. But of course, the Democrats have strong supporters as well. You have the Swift girl and you have Robert De Niro sort of shouting against Trump and that type of thing. But basically, when you look at the Trump backers like Rudi Guiiliani, who defeated the mafia in New York, while De Niro basically glamorized thieves and murderers. In relation to the Electoral College, I know that some people consider that fair, and there's loads of people over the last, going back to the presidency actually of Andrew Jackson, there was attempts to overthrow the Electoral College. But on the other hand, it does give representation to the smaller states. And it could be argued that the United States would never have come into existence without the Electoral College. So anyone that looks at the debates or even reads any of the books on the Constitution will actually find that out for themselves. The Electoral College is part of the Constitution and virtually impossible to change at this stage. So thank you very much for watching. Please subscribe to the channel